Strixhaven is back, and it's back with a new set of absolutely busted dragons. The first time round we were treated some reasonably hot dragons, but not many of them ever really shone as standalone commanders. And honestly, the new ones might become top tier commander decks overnight. Hey, I'm Paul from Missing Lands. I'm a guy who's always on the internet and I absolutely adore Commander. And today we're looking at the 5 new mythic dragons of Strixhaven. And more importantly, what you're actually going to play alongside them to make them into the outrageous beasts they can be. I'm going to give my opinion on whether I think the new dragon is an upgrade from the old one, and see at the end which one's better overall. What's nice about this new set of dragons is that they all bring back an older mechanic that maybe aren't as common. And the fact that they're older abilities is nice because after all, they are elder dragons. This is Simic, but in school colours. The previous iteration was the least popular of the first Strixhaven dragons, Tanazir Quandrix, with only 869 decks on Architect, and it's pretty easy to see why. It will make one creature bigger, then provide a small buff to others, but other colours do this better. So while it's arguably a bit unique, it's not impressive and it offers no real advantage or value. The new boy, however, Quandrix the Proof, looks legit. Only 1 more mana at 4 green blue with 2 more power and toughness, still having flying and trample, but now it has cascade, which is pretty strong. Then it gives every instant and sorcery in your hand cascade, and that's some serious Simic value. Having cultivate hit immediately into a rampant growth really kicks this deck off. And then once you've ramped to the moon, your top end can be crazy. Expropriate is brutal because who doesn't love taking all the turns? River's Rebuke, bouncing an opponent straight into a time warp. This is a definite upgrade from the previous. Now we have some big boots to fill here. Galazeth Prismari is a real favourite for Izzet artifact decks. It turns treasures, clues, food, tokens into permanent mana rocks that you could run this deck up to the moon with. It was a big mana beast of a deck. I never built this, but I've been beaten by it enough to know that it's nuts. The new Elder kit on the block is Prismari the Inspiration. More costly at 5 blue-red with Ward 5 pay life, which never really means too much at commander tables, but the last ability is insane. Instants and sorceries you cast have Storm. The high mana count might hold it back slightly, but when this hits the battlefield, you get access to one of the most broken mechanics MTG has ever offered. There are so many mana positive spells in red. Seething Song, Pyretic Ritual, Strike It Rich, Desperate Ritual, Mana Geyser. Pop off even one spell, say a Lotus Petal, then you get your ritual spell and a copy, which is bonkers. Then the spell after, you will get 2 copies of. This is horrendously cracked. Think of the advantage you could get with something like Jester's Will with all that mana and those cards. Then, once you have all that mana, you can do whatever takes your fancy. Spellslinger is an archetype that Izzet has enjoyed for years. Crackle with Power is a nice way of ending things with a huge stack of mana. I know I mentioned extra turn spells before, but how about now you just turn the game into solitaire by running off 10 time warps following a storm? This deck can do whatever you want it. Storm counts can climb silly high with free spells like Gitaxian Probe and Gut Shot, if you pay the 2 life, they're free anyway. This is incredibly close for me between the old and new Prismari. I'll have to edge it to the old Galazeth because of the lower mana cost. However, no mistake, the new Prismari is an inspiration. I'm certainly pretty inspired to build it. So the old card here is Shadrix Silverquill, a perfectly solid card that offered a nice bit of value. It also inspired about 3,000 decks on Architect. A flying double striker that can draw cards. It's a nice political card, which some pods love as well, and it makes tokens in Orzhov, which is always welcome. Our new friend here is Silverquill the Disputant. Flying 4/4 with Vigilance is nice. You can swing with command damage and not have to take your own shields down and still have that blocker. But each instant and sorcery you cast has casualty 1. So excuse me, for the sake of sacrificing a single 1/1, I can double every instant and sorcery. This one doesn't even limit it being cast from the hand, it's anywhere. I mean, where do you even start? Obviously we need tokens, but how about tokens being generated by casting instants and sorceries? Sedgemoor Witch has Magecraft, so whenever you cast or copy, you get a 1/1 pest. Monastery Mentor creates more 1/1s that also buff themselves and can present a tasty wide board. Then of course spells like Bitter Blossom do some crazy stuff here with consistent token making. And honestly, just copy whatever. Remove 2 big threats with double Swords and Plowshares, double Shooters, why not? Double Dark Ritual, yeah go on. Double Torment of Hailfire, seems good enough to win a lot of games. Double Breach the Multiverse, this will saw you ahead. Plenty of cards in graveyards, plenty to steal. Why not follow it up with a double Reanimate? Orzhov has access to so many reanimation spells. Even lesser played cards like Storm the Herd, you get twice the Pegasus, so if your life's say 20, that's still 40 flying bodies. You can play this deck in any number of ways, and I think that's a wonderful thing to look at in Commander. I don't think there's really a dispute here. I think the new Disputant is far superior. This was the biggest boy from the old Strixhaven. Beladros Witherbloom. He was the most built of the old dragons with over 4,000 decks on EDHREC. Untapping all of your lands for 10 life, while each turn cycle you make pests that gain you the life back when they die. Build into this and you can untap your lands easily on every single player's turn. The newbie here similarly stretches value. Witherbloom the Balancer. One more toughness and power with added death touch. Again though, upgrades. He costs one more but has affinity for creatures. Fill your board with pests and he costs one less for each creature. Potentially just green-black. Command attacks gets reduced here too, which is huge. Then instants and sorceries you cast have affinity for creatures. So once more, you fill the board with tokens, and Golgari loves doing this. Dublin Season, no introduction needed. Chatterfang, extra squirrels for each token. Now everything's cheap. Torment of Hailfire, X equals 20, well, GG. Awaken the Woods, looks great. Finale of Devastation, tutoring up a certain behemoth with large hooves. In Garrick's Wake for 2 mana to wipe everyone else's board, and then follow it up with the Rise of the Dark Realms. That's only 4 mana. The more I talk, the more I'm convincing myself into building this guy. As much as I was a fan of the original Beladros, I don't think it's close. The Balancer looks S tier. Finally, Boros, or should I say Lawhold. The old guard here is Velomachus Lawhold. Keyword super bit, flying, vigilance, haste on a 5/5. But 5 red wipe is pretty steep. An attack trigger that lets you see 7 cards deep and cast one of them for free. There were shenanigans, buff him, slam extra combat spells like World at War or Seize the Day. Fine. But our new guy, the Historian, is 2 mana cheaper at the cost of losing vigilance, but the upside, each instant sorcery or hand has Miracle 2, and even more importantly, at the beginning of each opponent's turn, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. So you dig every turn, because something important to note about Miracle is that it gets around normal timing triggers, so even if you wheel yourself into a sorcery, you can still cast that for its Miracle cost. Broken. Scroll Rack, Sensei's Divining Top, yes please. Then we make things busted. Hit the Motherlode, call forth the Tempest, Rise of the Eldrazi, a cheap, explosive and ridiculous. The old guy was cool and I had fun with him in a standard reanimator shell, but this is outrageous. This Historian takes this round too as well. So all in all, I think 4 of the 5 new dragons here outpaced the old ones, and in the one example where the old dragon won, I think it was close, and even that was mostly preference. But of course, this is just my humble opinion. I'd love to know what you're expecting from these dragons. Tell me down in the comments. I think these dragons will be very common on tables. If I had to bet, the most common surely is going to be Witherbloom. The cost reduction just seems too good. In time, I may well do full deck text on some of these builds because they look stunning. If you like what you saw here, think about subscribing. It helps motivate me, it helps the channel grow. So until next time, I've been Paul from Missing Lands. Thanks for stopping by.